12. Page 1.
Pema gesa dampala yatsen choking drabne Pema jane shesudra Dukandra mampako Keki jesu dataki Shingila chisha so Guru Pema siddhi May the Buddha's blessings ever awaken and illumine our minds. May the Enlightened One's blessing and inspiration ever unfold in our hearts. May the inconceivable blessing of enlightenment itself dispel the momentary illusion we've ever been separate, incomplete, or apart. Homage to the Buddha Guru Lama, who placed a wakefulness in the palm of my hand, our hands. May your heart, mind, and mine ours remain inseparable for the limitless benefit of one and all. Now beginning as always with breathing, inhaling and exhaling. Opening up, relaxing, arriving, relaxing, releasing, inhaling. And exhaling, relaxing, letting go, emptying yourself, turning inside out, decontracting. Again, third time, inhaling and exhaling and releasing. And now rest breath between sets of 3. Slowing it down, inhaling deeply and filling up. And releasing. Inhaling deeply and filling up. Second, holding it. Hold the breath, hold the mind, stop the breath, stop the mind, stop the world. Rest in the center, the central channel, the great middle way. Luminous, senseless openness, the natural state. And releasing. And for the third time in this set of 3, inhaling deeply. Second, holding. Each breath has 3 parts, inhaling and filling first, second holding, third releasing. Now we're holding. Sit on the breath. Sit on the prana. Float like a lotus on a lake, the ocean of subtle energy, of prana awareness. See if you can relax into it. Holding intensely, yet relaxed and at ease, on the spot, on the dot, unmoved. Unshakable, luminous, samadhi or focused concentration, inseparable. And releasing. These are usually done in 3 sets of 3 in Tibetan yoga exercises. So this is a rest breath between sets of 3. Ooh, it's getting warm in here. Again, inhaling deeply and filling up, second holding. Sip a little more down on top, pushing it down, pushing it out. Exaggerating the pot-bellied stove effect, the bum chen, kumbhaka, pot-bellied stove. Stoke the fire beneath your navel. Push out your pubes, exaggerate it. Feel the heat, the samadhi, the heat of samadhi, the intense focused awareness in your lower belly, the hara, the navel chakra. And releasing. Again, inhaling deeply and filling up, second holding. Try to straighten out your elbows, get your chakras and channels and spine straight if you're familiar with this. Otherwise, just relax into it, hold the breath. Now rotate your abdominal muscles. Do a little belly dancing. Rotate it counterclockwise 3 times and counterclockwise 3 times. Not your shoulders, your torso, your abdominal muscles. Mixing the energy and the heat, spreading the heat of samadhi throughout every pore, every chakra, every cell of your body, blissifying. And for the third and last time, now let's really do it. Inhaling deeply and filling up, second holding. Smile a little, spread the heat, the bliss, irradiate every chakra and channel, every cell of the body of all beings. This universe, my body, all beings, my heart, mind, says the great Dakini, Vajrayogini. Illumining the world, burning out karma, burning off all obscurations, covering the luminous Buddha nature within. The ever-adorning Rigpa awareness. And releasing. And now completing it with the camel's fart. We used to call it the tiger's roar, but Brandon Kennedy renamed it in his inimitable fashion, going right for the dirt. And just settling, letting everything settle in the natural state, the natural flow, or whatever state you think you're in, the natural great perfection. This breath, the only breath, this moment, the only moment. Nowness, awareness, awareness, aware of awareness, awareness transparent to itself. Empty, open, lucid, radiant awareness. The ultimate sphere, the great Tigli, the ultimate sphere, the great snow globe, letting everything self-settle by itself. Body self-settling like snowflakes settling. Breath and energy self-settling. Heart, mind self-settling. And the clarity like the snow globe, the clarity emerging from within. We stop manipulating and shaking, thinking and fabricating. Enjoying the view, nothing more to do. The great perfection, the radiant, great wholeness and totality. The splendor of things just as they are. Imaho. Now you close your eyes and keep sky gazing into the infinite expanse. With your eyes closed, looking into the dark light, the inner incandescence, luminescence, iridescence. It's not really dark in there, is it? Press on your eyeballs if you need to see a little bit of circles or lightning, just to see the iridescence sparkling. With your eyelids closed, sky gazing, looking right out through your eyelids into this infinite expanse, this deep dark, the moonless sky. Moonless dark night of no separation, no moon and darkness, no light and dark separate. Deep, dark. The inner light, the inner luminosity, the inner luminescence of mind, the sheen of awareness. Looking at it, seeing it, focusing on it, going into it, becoming it, being it. Look at the light between your eyebrows, forehead. Go into it, look at it, see it. Focus totally on it, concentrate on it. Breathe into it, breathe out of it, go into it, become it, be it. Be light. Light up the world. The radiant great perfection, the light by which we see and are seen, the clear light. Dharmakaya, Buddha mind, Rigpa. Om Benza Satu Samaya
Page 18.
Manupalaya Benza Satu Tena Pati Sadrita Me Bawa Sutakaya Me Bawa Supakaya Me Bawa Sava Siddhi Me Trayatsa Sava Kama Sutta Me Sita Bhagava Sava Tata Gata Vajra Om Benza Satu Samaya Manupalaya Benza Satu Tena Pati Sadrita Me Bawa Sutakaya Me Bawa Kaya Me Bawa Nirata Me Bawa Sava Siddhi Me Trayatsa Sava Kama Sutta Sita Siya Kuru Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajramam Savajramam Sava Vajrasafa Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasafa Tena Pati Sadrita Me Bawa Sutakaya Me Bawa Supakaya Me Bawa Anurata Me Bawa Sava Siddhi Me Trayatsa Sava Kama Sutta Sita Sri Ankuraham Ha Ha Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajramam Vajribawa Ma The 5 ahs, 5 chakras dissolving into the central channel, the center of the great middle way. Mahashunyata, the radiant void, the origin of all things, groundless ground of being. Luminous, scentless openness, incandescent presence, Rigpa, Buddha mind. Your true nature mind.
Page 23.
Champa Champa Drabjane Drawa Chichamalupa Deye Salam. By this virtue, may we swiftly realize and fully embody the natural great perfection, and thereby bring all without exception to its complete realization. On the previous page, so nam diye tam che sepane tam ne de ganya che bala trapaye sipe sale drawa sham. By the power of this virtuous practice, may the real enemies, our own projections and misdeeds, be overcome, and ultimate vision fully attained, so we may free beings from the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, the stormy waves of the ocean of samsara. Dusa Sanjay.
Page 21.
Guru Rimpa Jai Ngadra Kanda Dewa Jabal Shah Pote Duda Drapa Sawa Adepsa Gelab de Sal China Samway Bache Shiva Dahan Sampalanje Drapa Shingela Ujin Rinpoche Lazo Degal Jimbo Jimisa Shinchuchin Sampa Dripanan Chitan Tumanga Dripso. Precious Guru, one with all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, blissful presence and source of all spiritual accomplishments, fierce destroyer of illusion, who dispels every obstruction, we pray to you for blessing, inspiration. Please remove our outer, inner, and secret obstacles and spontaneously fulfill all our wishes. So as we're meditating, sky gazing, space mingling, dissolving in the infinite, decontracting, letting go, resting in the sky-like nature of mind or awareness itself, awareness alone, not looking out for anything, not looking inside for anything, not getting hung up in between. Enjoying the view, nothing more to do, great non-action, beyond the dualities of action and inaction. Not pushing the river, but not trying to dam it up either. Aware of whatever momentarily presents itself in the field of consciousness and watching it come and go, letting it go, recognizing all things as impermanent, ownerless, not mine, dreamlike, illusory phenomena, the dance of Maya Lila, the magical dance of the goddess of illusion, or projections of awareness, like reflections in the magic mirror of mind, yet the mirror remains unchanged, whatever momentarily appears in it. Nothing sticks. Using the Teflon side of our mind. In life, utilizing more the sticky flypaper side of our mind to remember things and keep track of things and remember the directions to where we're going and so on. But in meditation, we're emphasizing the emptiness or transparent, the letting, the Teflon side, letting things slide right off so they don't stick and burn in your brain pan. View, open like the sky, leave it as it is. Meditation, unshakable, imperturbable like a mountain, leave it as it is. Action, spontaneous, inexhaustible, appropriate response, depending on cause and conditions, leave it as it is. And the result, the great perfection, Rigpa, leave it as it is. Rigpa Neluk, the natural state of innate wakefulness, leave it as it is. Whatever temporary states it may be in, like the ocean, we don't need to iron out the waves. The ocean is fine, it never leaves its bed, with or without waves, same good old ocean. Source of all the clouds, the rains, and the rivers and lakes, no problem. Iceberg, no problem from the point of view of the ocean, only problem from the point of view of small ocean-going crafts or egos. Waves, no problem. Even big waves are superficial compared to the depth of the ocean. Even stormy emotions, no problem when you realize your true nature. The ocean, the big, then the waves are just like ornaments, adornments, hood ornaments on your gigantic caddy. The caddy of Vajrayana, happy and sad, difficult emotions and pleasant emotions are just hood ornaments on the bigger ground, the bigger vehicle. It's a matter where you locate yourself. It's a figure ground shift from being small, looking at everything, to being the universal, looking at the small and beyond. Such dichotomies. View like the sky, leave it as it is. Meditation like a mountain, leave it as it is. Activities, natural, spontaneous, free, appropriate, uninhibited, leave it as it is. And the result, the great perfection, leave it as it is. The four chokshak of Dzogchen, teachings on the nature of mind. Tregchut, teachings, introduction to the nature of Buddha mind. That human nature is Buddha nature. Our mind, the Guru, Buddha mind, and the Dharmakaya, the ultimate totality, not three, not two, not separate. Dharmakaya, Buddha or Guru, and one's own nature, not separate. Look into that, see if it isn't true, like 3-in-1. Oil, 3-in-1 oil, like the Holy Trinity, inseparable. In meditation, there's a few things to watch out for. They're called the 5 hindrances in the Buddhist texts. Traditionally, things like, I used to be able to remember these. I used to be able to remember to bring the right papers even. Now I can't even do that. Things like restlessness, doubt, desire, or sensuality. Remember, these are obstacles to meditation. In life, one may very well have doubt or questioning, or for that matter, desire. Like being hungry is natural, no problem. That's different than being addicted, which is an extreme. The 5 hindrances, clinging or attachment, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, doubt and skepticism. These are obstacles in meditation we should need to be aware of. And when they arise, we need to antidote them. Like if we feel clinging, like clinging to an experience, or clinging, like resistance is another form of clinging and attachment. If we're having a positive experience, maybe we cling to it, we desire more of it, we try to get it again if we had it yesterday or 100 years ago. But resistance, pushing away, is another form of attachment. Maybe we feel some pain and we try to get rid of it, or we have a recurrent thought, we try to get rid of it. This is an obstacle in meditation practice. We can antidote it. For example, by noting that everything passes if we let it, if we don't identify with it, hold on to it, fight with it, reify it, concretize it. If we don't, if we allow it to come and go, if everything comes and goes sooner or later, as we say in Massachusetts, if you don't like the weather, just wait a minute. Thus, coming back to the American mantra I mentioned the other day, this too shall pass. It will come in handy if you remember that, or have it written down on a yellow sticky and stuck somewhere. This too shall pass. And similarly with each of the others. Going more into it, we find the 10 obstacles listed: restlessness, distractaholism, jadedness or cynicism, which is not the same as questioning or healthy skepticism. We should question, get to the bottom of things, find out if it's true or not for ourselves, and go from belief to conviction and certainty. Not just borrowing someone else's certainty, like inherited knowledge, what do you call it, passed down, without discovering or rediscovering it or confirming it for ourselves. Fourth, laziness. As my own teacher, Khenpo Rinpoche, used to say, without effort, diligence, energy, nothing can be accomplished in either the worldly or the spiritual domains. Indifference, complacency. Fifth, the near enemy of equanimity. Equanimity and objective detachment, non-attachment, is not the same as being uncaring, indifferent, complacent. It's very caring. Just like the grandparents care about the grandchildren. But if you noticed, they care a little less than the parents do about the minutia. That's because of the increased distance of detachment. Also, they've been through it already. They know those brats will turn out fine, more or less, in the end, if you just keep putting fertilizer on them. They'll keep growing, because the kids are like weeds, as long as they're not burnt, scorched, trampled. Everything is fodder for the mill of experience, if cultivated, if held, if loved that way by the skillful gardener, like Chauncey Gardner. Anybody see Being There, one of the great Peter Sellers films of all times? So indifference and complacency is not the same. It's an obstacle. It's the near enemy. It looks like, but it's against, or it goes against the virtue of objective detachment, of spiritual detachment, of equanimity, one taste. Sixth, over-sensuality, being overly attached to things, tripping out on them. What a nice bird song. That must mean that I'm going to win the American Idol Song Contest, and so on. Oh, I was out walking by the river today and I saw 2 birds flying by. It must be my soulmate is on the way. I'd better get back to the meditation center and see if he, she are here yet. Tripping out. Mental sensuality or physical, being overly attached to pleasure and so on. Bliss, whatever. Pleasure is just pleasure. It's fine. It's not a sin. It's not a virtue. It's enjoyable, good. Like they say in, Weight Watchers or something, I heard. I should go and find out. Might help. A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. That's the problem with over-sensuality. Seventh, competitiveness, comparing. You're sitting there meditating, you're doing fine, then you start to notice, I mean, it's taken 5 or 6 days or 50 years, but there are other people in the room. And look at both sides, they're sitting there like living Buddhas, but I feel like shit. Comparing, I mean, you have no idea what's going on with them. Well, comparing this meditation to yesterday's, to this morning's session. Oh, I had such a good meditation then, at least for a few minutes. And now all I can think about is, I don't know, what's going to be for breakfast tomorrow, whether it's going to be farina or oatmeal. Farina, but we haven't had oatmeal in 2.5 days. Maybe it'll be oatmeal. And should I put brown sugar or maple syrup in it? Anyway, I'm exaggerating. But the more deeply comparing, comparing ourselves to other people and this experience to that, so that we're never really in anything. We're always half with one foot somewhere else, sort of in between horses. 8th, overreactivity. It's not the same as being sensitive, it's like being oversensitive to stimulation, having no buffer of attention to decide how, when, and if to respond. Being irritated, like you have no skin, you're like overly hypersensitive. Oh, I can't live in the city anymore. All those cell phones, I'm filling it with microwaves. I have to go and move to northern Canada to get away from them. They're giving me the heebie-jeebies. I know such people, maybe you do too. Anybody ever been in like Oregon, British Columbia, northern Vermont? It's full of people like that. Just joking. I know one. That's my kind of research, it's purely anecdotal. It was the cell phone microwaves that finally drove her out of Boston. She's a healer, very sensitive. 9th, ambition. So now she lives in northern Vermont. She wears Ugg boots, like they have to go up to your waist because she's so cold. But, it's better than, central heating, it dries out my sinuses. I can't live in that apartment anymore in Harvard Square with all those cell phones, microwaves. Ambition. Too grabbing, trying to squeeze the most out of every moment. Now, when I say ambition, you may think it means just worldly ambition, like trying to become like the richest person in the world, like Bill Gates or somebody. Or famous, like I don't know who's famous today. Tiger Woods, he's famous. But how about spiritual ambition? I'm going to be more enlightened than anybody else and faster, and then I'll be a famous Dharma teacher. Be so happy. I'll be the happiest person in the world. Or I'll get there faster than the others, or get the teacher's attention. I'll be the best protege. Or just more inner ambition to, meditate better than ever. That's fine in terms of balanced effort and keep going, but don't give in to it. Sometimes you have to just, sometimes you have to, right effort, the sixth step on the Eightfold Path, or Virya Paramita, enthusiastic, joyous effort, diligence. The 4th Paramita in the 10 virtues of the Bodhisattva. Means sometimes sweating and striving like the weightlifter, the mountain climber, and sometimes knowing how to coast and float and soar and catch the updrafts like the hawk, the Garuda, the eagle. Not always sweating and striving. That's why it's called right effort, or appropriate effort, balanced effort. You have to know how to take a vacation too, a few weeks a year, which helps the rest of the year. So not being overly ambitious in meditation. Oh, there's only 3 more days left until Sunday. I have to get enlightened before I go back to my horrible family and my horrible job. I mean, how allowing is that thought? It's very dualistic and neurotic. That's why in the ancient Eastern philosophy, I think it's from the Chinese, it says, hasten slowly and you shall soon arrive. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, the next step. The next step, this step, very important, the only step really. If you don't make this, you won't make the next one. It's a habit, like procrastinating. If you procrastinate till the weekend, till the summer, till you retire, when you get there, you'll still be procrastinating because it becomes a habit. You'll never be where you are. You'll always be waiting. And last, simplistic thinking, not thinking so black and white. Is this right or wrong? Am I doing it right? Good and bad. It's so simplistic. Simple is not simplistic. Simplistic makes simpletons. Simple makes peace. Simple, coherent, direct, straightforward. What word should we use? Like just dressing like what fits, like you need to dress. You don't have to make a splash every time you enter a room. There used to be somebody that came to these retreats that always wore a hat, which is fine. I don't have any rules like no hats in the meditation room. If you go into church, you're supposed to take off your hat. Okay, that's the custom, take off your hat. If you go into synagogue, you're supposed to put on your hat. Okay, if you're a man, okay, put on your hat. Big deal. But here we have no rules. But this guy, he always had to wear a hat. And it was always the most outrageous hat you could find, like a coonskin hat, like a cowboy hat, I can't remember, hats with hats hanging out of the hats, like opening a Starbucks everywhere, even inside a Starbucks. So finally, and I shouldn't talk about myself, my own great qualities. I am the most laissez-faire, even-minded Dharma teacher of all, and humblest, modest. I never tell people what to do, and I don't care what the hell you do. I don't care what you wear. I don't have rules like I was subjected to. No hats, no socks in the Zendo, even if it was freezing, and this and that. That's another story. Maybe you remember the Zen monk next to me in Japan, walking around in this frozen Zendo, and at 6 in the morning, he says to me, "Socks!" And I look down. I'm the only one wearing socks. Everybody else is barefoot. Socks. It was like, he didn't know English, but he knew that word. Woo! That made my toes curl. The vinegar in that word. It was so funny. So finally I said to this idiot, this devoted disciple with the hat trip, stop wearing your hat. No more hats for you in the retreats. He said, why not? I said, because I'm tired of seeing them. Not to mention you make such a big trip out of it, it's an attention getter. Just be like everybody else. That would be extraordinary. He actually put up with that shit. It just took me so much longer than it should have to actually let myself out a little, to say what I thought was the truth, which was like, just stop distracting everybody. And I mean, he used to do other things. I'm not going to mention his name. We all know who it is. No, he's not here. I should have thrown him out of one of the retreats where he was the biggest distraction, but being so mellow and loving and the most modest and open and laissez-faire and accepting of all Dharma teachers, we didn't throw him out, but we definitely should have. It's the only time I ever thought afterwards, I was too laissez-faire and let it go too long. Should have asked him to leave. Didn't want him to feel rejected, but it really interfered with other people. Right, Jess? You remember? She's not talking. What happens at Dzogchen stays at Dzogchen. She's not talking about the people who were jumping off the roofs and the other things that, never mind. Whoop. No, we have fun. We do have fun. But simplistic thinking is a real problem. And we become, in Dharma sometimes we get, my complaint is usually about religionists of all kinds. They means us. They get themselves in their heads like in a vice, and they can only see one way in that narrow strip that's like the straight and narrow that somebody, let's call it teacher or wholesome holy book, really teacher's interpretation of holy book makes it seem like that's the only way to be. If you think Buddhists are immune to that, please think again. That would be a good example of simplistic thinking. If you think Buddhists are immune to that. If you think you're immune to that also, that would be a good example of simplistic thinking. So those are 10 obstacles. I mentioned this morning the deviations from the view in Dzogchen. We won't go into that today. I don't know, Christopher, you want to throw that up on the board? Do you have it handy? I'm not going to explain it. I want to get to the question and answer period. And I'm tired. The day's almost over. Do we have that handy? No? Obstacles like hurrying. Remember, these are obstacles to the view in Dzogchen meditation. Hurrying, comparing, competing, collecting experiences, judging and reacting. You with me? Waiting, hoping, expecting. On the one hand, hoping and expecting hope, and on the other hand, fear and anxiety. Oh, what if I don't get it? And, how long is it going to take and all that? Not controlling and dominating our experience, number 8. Not interfering and manipulating. Remember, this is in Dzogchen meditations. These are deviations from the view. In life, if you're a parent, if you're a traffic cop, if you're a judge, you may have to judge. You may have to direct. But in Dzogchen meditation, even if you're a parent, a cop, a traffic judge, you don't. That's the difference between meditation and post-meditation, life practice. Don't give in to 10 or 11, discouragement. In books, it's always called elation and depression. We shouldn't use the word depression here. It's too pathological. Elation and discouragement. Pretense. Fabricating. Like trying to smile all the time and it's all good, even when it's not, clearly. And so on. My favorite one that you don't see anywhere that I heard as a pith instruction only once from my teacher, the late great Dingo Chinsi Rinpoche, was not letting go too soon. That's kind of obvious when you're in practice, but also not letting go too late. That's more the distinction of Dzogchen or Tantra, not letting go too late. There's a time to let go of your practice also. As Buddha said, the Dharma is like medicine. I'm like the doctor, you're like the patient. If you take the medicine as prescribed, if you take the medicine, I can help you help and heal yourself. If you take the Dharma medicine as prescribed, it'll probably help. But when you're not sick anymore, you don't have to keep taking the medicine. Buddha said when you cross over the ocean of samsara, you can let go of the raft of the Dharma that carried you there. Don't carry the raft on your back on the shore of nirvana. In Zen, we have a more pungent saying. It's called the stink of enlightenment. People who just reek from that, it's like the nouveau riche, reek of filthy lucre. There's nothing wrong with lucre, but the nouveau riche reek of it. They build, McMansions just to show off. It's just gross. You know what I'm talking about, right? Thank you. The stink of enlightenment. The nouveau enlightened. Just reeking of it. Just trying to show it off, just radiating, just like so. I can't wait to tell you. So, not letting go too late. So here in Dzogchen, it is too late. There are no other practices to be done, just to be. That's the simple, natural way of the great perfection. Natural great perfection. Easy, comfy, quick, direct access to Buddha-ness, the great perfection. Buddha nature is human nature. When you become you, Dzogchen becomes Dzogchen, Zen becomes Zen, as Suzuki Roshi says. But you have to become the real you, not the false, addicted you. Find the real you. That's what introduction to nature mind means. Introduction to your true nature, who and what you are. Not just the mind, the intellect. Your true nature, your Buddha nature, your Buddha-ness, your inner divinity, your complete, immaculate, splendid, magnificent, gorgeous wholeness and completeness. As you are, warts and all. The dark side is also rich. You don't have to just discover a diamond mind. If you discover a coal mine, you're also rich. And coal becomes diamond sooner or later. So questions, please. Yes, Ricky.
You're talking about mind a lot, and it
Too much.
Well, I don't know. It reminded me of when we do morning and evening service in the Chan retreats. The first line is to know all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, perceive that all Dharma Dhatu nature is created by the mind. And that reminded me of what you said about the fish in the ocean and all that. And then I thought of the Shurangama Sutra.
Go slow. You're using a lot of big words.
Should I start again?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I like to hear that again.
I get a little nervous.
Yeah, me too. That's why go slow.
Okay.
Take a breath.
Okay.
When you do your Chan or Zen practice, then what do you say? What kind of crazy,
to know
crazy
all the
shit?
Buddhas of the past, present, and future, perceive that all Dharma Dhatu nature is created by the mind. We say it in the morning, and we say it in the evening. And you mentioning mind so often made me think about it, especially when you said about the fish in the ocean and not being aware of the ocean because it's in it. And so I thought about the Shurangama Sutra, which is a sutra that the Buddha gave to Ananda when he almost went to bed with this woman. Anyway, it's a big story, but
That sounds like a good story. I want to hear that one.
Well,
I forgot that one. Go on.
And so the sutra came about because he said, you lost your mind, Ananda, and I need to kind of give you a little bit of help here.
Give you a piece of my mind?
Give you a piece of my mind, exactly. And in it, he says, mind is not within the body, nor outside the body. We are within the true mind. And
Go slow.
I'm sorry, I'll say it
that.
again. That mind is not with the body, nor outside the body. We are within the true mind.
That's the figure ground shift we're talking about.
And so what you've been saying
The big and the small.
was really helpful for me, because this true mind, you in a way called it the Godhead or this divine. It seems like it's a divine intelligence almost, without calling it God or Godhead. So my question then is, in the Surya Sutra, the Buddha talks about, or the commentary talks about, this awareness that we all have. And through a visual awareness that never changes, which is very much like what you're talking about, I think. And so my question is, have you been reading from the Shurangama Sutra? And are you planning to write about an interpretation for us about the Shurangama Sutra? Because it's super close to what you're talking about. And it's been very helpful for me, so thank you.
I think you've been reading from the Surangama Sutra and you're planning to write about it. No, I don't read those things. It's too, I don't know. I have a lot of sports to watch. I used to read them.
I bet you did.
I used to read them. I have other things to do now. Like I was just reading the memoirs of the Lama who's coming tomorrow, Tuku Sherab Dorje, the American Lama. And it's called Skull Bones and Flowers. And he's going to teach us tomorrow afternoon. And he studied with many of my teachers in the East, and he was also a lawyer, and he has a small center in upstate New York. He's a good guy. He knows Tibetan very, very well. He's a smart guy, too. He became a Lama by doing 3-year retreat up the river, no, not at Sing Sing, but at Lama Norla's Center, Kaju Tupten Chuling in Wappingers Falls, which is just near Poughkeepsie. It might be that way. It might be that way. It's north on the Hudson, wherever that is, that way. So because I like his story, stories, and I haven't heard his sutra yet, so I was reading about it, see what he had to say, and there's some great stuff in there. Like how Kusum Lingpa, this great old Tibetan Lama who just died recently, who very rarely came out of Tibet but came a couple times, how he recognized this lawyer guy as an incarnate Lama and told him to come to Tibet, and he enthroned him at his monastery there. And he had a lot of dreams of him and vice versa, and how this great Lama of his, Kusum Lingpa, who I never had the good fortune to meet, but I certainly heard of much. Maybe you heard of him, Kusum Lingpa, a Dzogchen master. He, in our American Friends memoirs, he's saying, and this Lama, he never dressed any particular way. Unlike every other Lama I've ever met, you never knew what he was going to be wearing. Robes or clothes or like nothing, not much or a lot. It's very unusual for an important clerical dignitary in the old world. It said a lot. So that's the kind of thing I've been reading. And also the Sunday Times, stuff like that. But I am familiar with the sutras and tantras and, etc. Do you have the whole Surangama Sutra in your notebook there? It looks like I see some pretty small handwriting. That's great. I only know one thing from the Surangama Sutra that I always quote. Things are not what they seem to be, nor are they otherwise. That's one of the greatest quotes of all times. That's a bind breaker.
Your interpretations are so helpful for Westerners, and the commentary that is available is by a Chinese master who's wonderful, but it's just very different. I think he just adds so much to this piece.
Oh, thank you. I think we need some American sutras. We need to collect the American stories of enlightenment and how people are getting enlightened by, I don't know what, hacking on the computer or fixing their, I was going to say Volkswagen, but I don't even know if we have Volkswagens anymore, fixing their Priuses or, whatever, recycling and composting. Questions, please. I don't know if you know this. Okay, since you're making me tell, usually because I'm so humble and modest, I don't like to tell about me and what I'm doing and thinking. I mean, what I'm thinking, no big deal, but what I'm really thinking, like about writing the big book of Dzogchen and things like that. So recently, at my students' request, I wrote a Nundro, meaning in the last 5 years. So it just sort of is coming out. And it's not the average Nundro with the hundreds of thousands. So I gave that to my advanced students at our advanced retreat in Texas at Dzogchen Soling, our retreat center, and a few other people recently in Cambridge at a Vajra feast ceremony that they invited me to. So that maybe one day there'll be American sutras or American Buddhas. Maybe there are already. There must be, actually. There almost are. Questions?
Two quick ones. One, time to let go of your practice. I'm not sure what that means. And the other is...
When it's time to play, you stop practicing. You play. Right?
Off the hook.
What does off the hook mean?
I'm not white-knuckling it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like there's practice. I don't know, I'm not a musician, but let's pretend. If you practice the piano, then you have a performance. It's time to start practicing. Maybe you don't practice for a few hours before the performance or something. I don't know, just, finger painting here. There may not be that much difference between performing and practicing when you're good. You know what I mean? When you know the piece. But so there becomes a time, a Tibetan story would be, and this is probably in my collection of Tibetan teaching tales, the Snow Lion's Turquoise Mane, I can't remember. The Dzogchen master who, when he had his Great Awakening, although he had spent many years chanting thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of mantras of different kind, as the tradition prescribes, and counting them, when he had his Great Awakening, he took his beads and he threw it into the lap of the Buddha on the altar, and then he ran out, shouting Eureka or whatever, stink of enlightenment, into the woods and lived happily ever after. That's a real story. I mean, it really happened. Many of them have done because that's the time to let go of your practice, when you don't need to practice anymore because you're accomplished. Or when you don't need to memorize the music anymore, you just play free jazz because you have your classical roots and forms. You don't need, or when you know how to play tennis, you know how to volley, you know where the net and the boundaries are, you can have a good volley even though there's no court because you know where it is in your mind, let's say. You are the game.
Thank you. I get tense. And the other question...
But I also want to say here, this is the time to stop practicing, when we practice Dzogchen. And to start not performing, but just playing, just being. Not doing this practice and that practice. Not practicing, but it's the real thing. When you're just being. You don't have to practice being. You've already been being for a long time, just been lost in the doings and the ideas about who's doing it. I mean, if you want to practice, a practice I like is think about who's doing. Who's doing it? Who's doing this? First of all, what is it that's happening? And second of all, who's doing it? Is it God? Is it me? Anyway, you should ask the questions now. not me.
Thank you. You've given me so much to think about on that one that I'm not sure I need to go on, but on some of the tankas, there are these,
What are tankas?
the
The wall
artwork that's
hangings?
hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
There are these blue figures, or figures that are outrageous and scary.
Yeah, the
And
wrathful deities
the
and
wrathful
protectors.
deities.
Yeah.
I used to really not like them, but I'm beginning
too.
to think that they might be part of
Yes.
it.
I
Yeah?
mentioned that before about the rich darkness, and if you discover a coal, if you could plumb the darkness, you can be just as rich if you discover a coal mine as a diamond mine,
Okay.
as the light.
Thank you.
That's what it means,
Thank
the
you.
rich darkness. But also there's, notions of protector, different activities, different aspects.
But no need to fear.
Well, it's an ego fear, so the ego needs to fear because the ego is very
Good.
tenuous. That's what's scared, so that's interesting. Depends who who you're interested in, let's say, investing in. The tenuous ego or the thing that can't be destroyed. So sometimes those things are called Dharma guardians, Dharmapalas, Dharma protectors. They always have a peaceful deity or a syllable at the heart, because it's like the heart of, it's like a parent shouting, screaming with adrenaline to get out of the street before the kid gets hit by the car. The loving parent doesn't just whisper lovingly. It's a time for adrenaline to surge, and fear for that matter, or anger. That's the sharp, helpful side of those things, not harmful, to right the wrong situation before it goes further. The sharp cutting side of anger, not just the harmful, destructive side. Every negative emotional klesha has its own enlightenment, wisdom, spiritual intelligence. Questions? Yes, Madeline.
Well, my question has to do with Japanese beetles. I don't know how many people garden here, but we have a vegetable garden and we have a flower garden. And the Japanese beetles are invasive species, and they can eat up a rose bush, and in the afternoon they can ruin a patch of vegetables in the afternoon. And so my dilemma is what to do about the beetles. I don't want to kill the beetles. On the other hand, I want the garden peas. And if I let the beetles have their way, we're not going to have anything. So what I do is take a bottle with water in it, and I put the beetles in the bottle, and I figure if they can get out of there, more power to them. But
So you're not killing them yourself?
Yes, but it's really a dilemma for me because I don't want to kill them.
right.
But I
Well,
don't
you're a
want them
good
to ruin my
Buddhist.
garden.
The Jains in India, the really devout members of the Jain religion, which predates Buddhism or has a very common root in Buddhism, they're very nonviolent and vegetarian. Many of them wear a mask, like the Jain monks and nuns. They wear white clothes. They wear like what's it called, a flu mask, a breathing mask. Like if you have a cold, you wear that thing, that white thing, so they don't inhale bugs and mosquitoes during the monsoon when there's a lot of little things in the air. And they also sweep the path as they walk in front of them so they don't step on any ants or anything. But that's a difficult way of life. That is a way of life. That's like a half-time job right there. So you have to find the middle way and what works for you. If you're flying an airplane or if you drive a car, you're probably killing some ants or birds or I don't know. But of course, a universal precept is not to harm, not to kill, to cherish life, to put it positively. Nobody wants to be harmed or killed. Nobody wants their loved ones, their pets, their beloveds, their neighbors, their neighborhood, their land, their trees to be harmed or killed, generally. But where do you draw the line? We Judeo-Christians draw it at people. We don't worry about killing chickens and pigs and cows and mosquitoes and snakes and animals, so cool. And then some do. Peter Singer, the animal rights ethicist, is a greatly detailed philosophy about the rights of animals. It's worth studying. Buddhists vow not to kill, but then where do you draw the line? Or what about if your old pet, your beloved pet, is suffering so much, and you take it to the vet, and the vet said it's time, and the next vet says it's time, and you keep asking, and you can't let go of them because, is that compassion or is that attachment? Is it for the pet you're keeping them alive, or it's for you? When they're suffering and puking in their food bowl, and then just lying there with their head in it, burbling bubbles, and in cancer-racked body. So, it's a difficult question, those ethical questions, but a lot of gray area. But I think I like Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Vietnamese monk and master's interpretation of the vow. It's not as simple as do not kill. It's always cherish life, hold life dear. Because you might have to do what you have to do, like an abortion to a 13-year-old that's been raped by a mugger. I don't know, just make up something. Or capital punishment for a serial killer that kills the guards and the prisoners too. I don't know about capital punishment, I'm just saying. But I do know that when I lived in the Karmapa's Kagyu Monastery atop the mountain in Mead Mountain in Woodstock in 1977, when we started it there in 77, then, with all of our friends coming from New York, with friends come suitcases, with suitcases come cockroaches. Anybody familiar with New York? So we had a cockroach problem all of a sudden. So what do you do in a group, in a place that was an old hotel that's now becoming a roach motel? What do you do? So we wondered what to do, and there were several Tibetan Lamas there, a Rinpoche, a Khenpo, a manager Lama, So what do? I know what you do. You call the home monastery in the Himalayas, Karmapa's monastery in Sikkim, and ask them. So you call the home ship, the mothership, and 2 days later, this van comes up the hill with this big, giant metal on springs, like superhero bug warrior, with fake blaster-like tool. It's the exterminator truck, with something funny written on the side. And they killed the cockroaches, but not without much thought and care and praying for them to have a better rebirth and, purification mantras. So that's different, isn't it, than just mindlessly swatting a mosquito or running over, a squirrel in your car when it runs out under your wheels. There's no intention. Karma, a lot depends on intention and action. Like first-degree murder is different than accidental manslaughter or something. I don't know. I watch the same TV shows as you. That's all I know about that. Intention is very important. So there was a lot of intention and a lot of grief about killing all those poor cockroaches as it had to be done, or just hand over the monastery to the roaches. Probably be closed down by the health code people. So again, that's my research, one anecdote. But you could also apply it to your own stomach. Anybody ever have, giardiosis or some of these things? Let's put it in English. Bugs in the belly, many, worms, I don't know what. I lived in India, so I'm an expert on giardia. So in Nepal, every few months or years, you have giardia and you start burping sulfa and having diarrhea, and you have to nuke them with 10 days of antibiotics or some illegal drug that's illegal in America, Tinabar, that you get over there. So isn't that killing? From a Buddhist point of view, that's killing. You're not supposed to kill bacteria or virus and things like that, worms, you're not. But if you dig a foundation for the monastery with bulldozers and dynamite, you kill a lot of bugs. What to do? Nature is red in tooth and claw, as Kipling sang. What to do? You have to live. But you can live very mindfully and attentively and compassionately and use these moments, learning moments of compassion to develop more compassion. We better do something good here at this monastery that we're digging, because we're uprooting a hell of a lot of trees and animals and cutting through the worms and so forth. And similarly, maybe do something positive with our body, since we're nuking all of these poor bacteria and things in there, just so we can live. I mean, why should I live? Why should I kill millions of these poor bacteria just so one person can live? It's so irrational. Wouldn't it be better to just have many people eat the meat from one cow than have one person eat like 10 shrimp, 10 animals? It's so irrational, but that's not how we think. I know you're laughing, but that's, some Tibetans will say that. That's why they eat meat and not seafood. Because better eat one big animal than many small ones. Of course, that's not the real reason. The real reason is they didn't have seafood in Tibet. And they think those things look like bugs. You know, lobsters and crabs and clams, but they call it bugs in Tibetan. But that's one strain of, a minor strain of thought in Buddhism. Better kill one big animal for many people than many small animals for one customer at the restaurant. So cherishing life is the important thing, and not being careless, and not cultivating those negative states of mind that kill, or mindlessly kill, like swatting the mosquito. Actually, mosquito's not going to harm you that much. It's probably not a malarial tsetse fly. So do we really have to kill it? Or maybe we can just go, or even let it have a nice drink and wish it a safe flight, as my teacher said. So we'll end here. Thank you. Have a good night.